Hey everybody, I'm doing something a little different here. It's about midnight, and I wonder if I can shut this light off. You can still see me. Alright, well, forgive me if this is a dark video. I don't like driving with lights on inside. In fact, I'm the guy that dims my dash gauges when I drive. Actually, that'll work. I'll turn that one on. I just got out of the movie Arrival. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to talk about stuff that I don't want to ruin the movie for you. Forgive me, I'm very tired. I got out of work late, and I'm kind of still thinking about this film. I love science fiction, right? A lot of you who have known me for a while, maybe not necessarily from work, but friends of mine or subscribers of mine for a while, know that I love sci-fi. I love everything about it. And I'm not just talking about, aliens, like the movie Aliens, James Cameron, or, Star Trek. And I do love those too. But good science fiction that makes you sit there in your seat and makes you think about life and the planet and where we are as a species while the movie's going on. Long story short, the quick aspect of this, because this is going to be a very unscripted video, the soundtrack was like the plot of this film and like the idea of alien contact, which has been done to death in Hollywood recently, was unique. The visuals, not that this is a CG fest of a film, but the visuals of the film look great. The acting is great. The casting is great. I would have liked to have seen more away from the central cast, like maybe cut away like your typical sci-fi movie that talks to the president, but we hear about what they're thinking and what they're demanding and want of the team that investigates the aliens in passing by, there's a CIA rep there in the headquarters here. So the basic plot of this film is there are 12 ships. You've seen them in the posters or the trailers. I myself only watched the first trailer to this film. I did not watch the rest of them or TV spots, because this is a film that I could tell that I wanted to be surprised by it. I wanted to just not know anything about it and just go see the film. So there are these 12 ships. They land on different parts of the Earth. The one that's featured heavily in the film is Montana. There's one in Russia. There's one in China, and the one off Australia. There's 12 ships, and the whole basic plot of the film is trying to communicate with them. And I actually really, really love that idea right away. If you told me that was the main idea of the movie without me knowing about this film, I would say sure. Because in science fiction, I'm looking at you, Star Trek, because as much as I love Star Trek, it's not perfect, but they have the universal translator. It's already established in Star Trek and a lot of other sci-fi shows. We can communicate with them. We know who they are. We know their cultures, their rituals, their language, their math. It's almost like looking at another human being. And there have been some sci-fi films that kind of skirt around the edge of figuring out how to communicate, but then we figure it out, and then we talk or we go into relations. If you're a sci-fi fan like me, Babylon 5, Farscape, all these shows kind of touch on that. But the idea that I've always found interesting was an alien. But you think about it, an alien species and their technology. They got here. They have intergalactic travel. They're intelligent, but the smartest person on the Earth, if they don't know the language that you're speaking to them in, they don't know what to help. The movie makes very good points. It brings up a lot of cool things about how the military and the world wants answers. They want to know why the aliens are here. They want to know what they want. And the military, and kind of rightfully so, but arrogantly so, is all about, hey, listen, we want answers. And it's up to the main cast here to be like, listen, this isn't fucking easy. And I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to get that far into detail, but they point out right away, hey, listen, this is why it's not this easy. And obviously it helps the audience understand, oh yeah, that's true. That's probably why it's hard to communicate with them. Very few films have, while watching this and sitting in the theater listening to the soundtrack and watching the credits, very few films recently come to mind that made me feel the way I felt about humanity, the aspect of time, science fiction, etc. And Contact comes to mind. 2001 comes to mind. It borders on that Inception aspect with how we perceive time very in a linear fashion. And at the end of the film, it has a very wow feeling of, wow, that's been going on this whole time. I'm not going to spoil it. I want you guys to go see this movie. It's one of those science fiction films where after watching it, you just go, like I said, wow, or oh my god, or you look at a movie like this with its pointing out of humanity's flaws and humanity's weaknesses, and you kind of feel a little angry at our species in the sense of what we put first, or who we don't talk to, or who we plot against. And the world right now, not counting certain aspects of our species, Middle East and terrorism and all that stuff, we get along with each other, but in reality, every single minute of every single day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to one-up another. Why? To better humanity? No. To make sure that we're the ones on top, and we're the ones who have the final say in the world. And you know what? As someone who, I'm not a sheep, I just don't follow the norm, I can kind of respect things a little bit more. And again, my brain is still trying to process this film. Like I said, Contact is the closest thing to this movie in the sense that you have aliens that have made contact. We're trying to decipher what they're telling us. In Contact, obviously, it was the plans to build the device that would send a single human being to wherever. That was the big assumption in the movie, is like, where is it sending someone? You have different countries wanting to take key points, and it's less militaristic in the movie Contact, as it is a little bit more religious, because obviously the machine is blown up by a religious fanatic who believes that it's God's will, or whatever the fuck. In this movie, you have, a newer generational take on it, because obviously since the movie Contact, time-wise, we have more technology. The internet, communications is much more instant. This lighting is not really working, so I'll switch back to this. It's interesting seeing a movie about, let's face it, aliens, right? And it's not about going to war. It is, but it's not. It's not about, like, look at War of the Worlds or your typical sci-fi film. It's not your typical interaction. 90% of this movie is just figuring out how to fucking communicate with this species from wherever. And it's just, I have a very hard time putting this into words, mainly because I'm tired. I'm not a linguist. I don't know everything. But I can't talk about this movie the way I want to without spoiling stuff. So I guess what I'll say is it gives you a new understanding of paradox and time and influencing the future. And that's all I'm going to say. All I can say besides that is just go see the movie. It's a long movie. It's a long set. It's 2 hours, and I think 2 hours and like 20 minutes or so. But you know what? It deserves the time. And I'm a big fan of long movies. I always have been. If you told me, hey Ryan, it's a 3-hour movie, are you okay with that? Fuck yeah, I'm okay with that. Forget the fact that ticket prices cost, what, $20? $18 for a good theater, maybe $15 where you live. It gives time for not only the plot to advance, not only to show in more detail this film, this world that the film is basically painting for us, but it gives the audience time to think. Do I think this is the greatest movie ever made or anything like that? No. I think this is one of the more original science fiction films to come out in the past 20 years, I think. I think once it gets more traction I think it'll be a little bit. It's one of those sleeper films. Not everybody goes to see a movie like this because, let's face it, science fiction is not as popular as your typical action romp. I mean, fucking the XXX movie coming out, or whatever fucking Fast and the Furious movie that Hollywood spits out at us, will get more money than this movie ever will. But I think if you give the audience at large a chance, more and more people are going to see this film and appreciate it, and be better able to articulate how they feel about it than I would at 12:08 in the morning. It's one of those things where I wish I started to do this series where I would film stuff in the car more often. It's just, I like to take time to process the film. I like to go, after seeing a movie, my typical thing is I go home, or whatever, eat, whatever, go to IMDb or Wikipedia, and looking at the plot synopsis helps me kind of remember things, and then I would normally talk to the camera. But I don't know, it's just, if you've seen the movie Contact, and you know what I'm talking about with that feeling of, you feel good at the end of the movie because of the plot of the film, because of how it ends, or you feel bad depending on who you are. I'm not going to say good or bad because that kind of ruins the ending for you, but without being totally obvious of ruining things, it's just one of those films. And there are moments in this film that have tension. There are moments in this film that are sad. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. The first 10 minutes of this movie, if it doesn't hit you hard, I don't know who you are, even me. I was sitting there, I didn't cry or anything, but it was like, damn. All right, this is how you're starting. Okay. As someone who appreciates science fiction, the wonderment, if that's a word, the look in people's eyes when they, realize the situation that they're in. Your first contact with an alien species. Forget, War of the Worlds type of mentality. You're a scientist or a linguist or a military personnel or even a fucking cameraman, and look at where you are. The Day the Earth Stood Still, not the original epic classic, but the remake did a lot of things wrong. But the one thing that I did like it did, compared to the first film, obviously the world is a lot different. It's a lot smaller than it once was. But one of the things that I liked that they did was, the whole bit about getting people from different backgrounds, mathematics, science, linguists, all these different people coming together, but you only saw a little bit of it. Same thing with Contact, you only saw a little bit of it. This movie goes balls out as far as the linguistics capabilities of human beings. And they realize, okay, math will help, science will help, but it's all about understanding. And the last thing I'll say on this film, they make a point in this movie, Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner's character, is a mathematician, I think, or a probable physicist. I can't think. Long story short, she is a linguist. He comes from a scientific, mathematical background. She comes from a linguistic background. And, she flat out says that language is the root of all civilization and intelligence. And he's like, no, science is. And they bring up that point in the beginning of the movie, and it makes you think as a member of the audience, like, that's a good point. Is it science? Is it technology? Is it my ability to talk to a phone and talk to you? Is it my ability to, or our ability as a species back in the day to make fire and to create literature and poetry and songs and movies and music? Or is it communications? Is it language? Is it me being able to simply say hello to somebody next door to me and then, speed up time here? Is it our ability to talk together as a species? They bring up that point. There's a cop up there. They bring up that point very early on, and it kind of sets the tone of the movie, where you have all these different interests coming together, wanting a piece of the pie for security reasons, for reasons dealing with the future of humanity, and then for reasons just like, listen, I want to fucking talk to these things, and they want to talk to us. That's it. That's all I got to say. I would say it's, again, one of the most original science fiction films, and films in general, I've seen in a while. Will I go see it again? Maybe, if my buddies really want to see it, but it's not their kind of film. Do I recommend it? 100%. Absolutely. Go see Arrival. Go see it. I don't care if it's in the afternoon. I don't care if it's by yourself. I don't care if it's on a Friday night. give this movie, for lack of a better term, money. Give it time. Give it an audience, and you won't be disappointed with the results. You know, like I said, not every movie needs to be a movie like this that makes you think. I perfectly enjoy sitting down and watching an action fest. I grew up in the 90s. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a god when it comes to that kind of content. But watching a movie like this, it's like watching a Robert Zemeckis movie like Forrest Gump or Contact, or it's like watching oh my god, I can't think of his name right now, the guy who did The Dark Knight and Inception. It's a movie that takes its time when it has to, not for the benefit of the audience, but for the benefit of the story. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Every aspect of it was great. Oops, my camera might fucking fall here. I'm getting off the highway. Don't fall yet. You made it this far. Don't fall. Like I said, every aspect of this film is great. The score, the cinematography, I didn't even touch on that. Hopefully you're still watching here. Now you can't see me. There's a lot of shots in this movie that are very centered. And I know there's a term for that. I can't fucking think of it, where the camera's locked down or pans up, but it's perfectly centered geographically or geography-wise to an actor in the middle of the screen and events going on in the background, or a house with windows, or a shot of the spacecraft, you know, when you're introduced. There's a lot of great cinematography at work here. As far as a film enthusiast goes, I would love to watch it again. It is a rather long sit if you don't enjoy that kind of film, but I loved it. I thought it was great. Like I said, it's this century, because we're in 16 now. You know, if the 90s, if it was Contact, if back in the, oh Jesus, you're gonna hate me for not remembering this, whatever year 2001 came out, this is the 2010s version of that. You know, that's the 2010s example of that, and where we stand as a species in relation to possibilities. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna pull in my driveway here in a minute. I'm just gonna upload this. I'm not gonna edit it. It's just me. If you'd like to see more of these types of videos, maybe edited, maybe thought out more, let me know. But anyway, have a good night. Where's the button? Gosh darn it. There we go.